Just so you know, my parrot has decided to serenade us once again. Because she's a bitch. Hello and welcome to Cine Club, the show where we watch the movies that have recently come out and review them. And the movie I saw this week was Monuments Men. Directed by George Clooney, co-written by George Clooney, produced by George Clooney, starring George Clooney. There's gonna be at least one "I am the most handsome in the world" joke in that movie. You just know it. The story is set almost at the end of World War II, and the Nazis are basically taking everything that's valuable of every country, including the artwork. So this unlikely platoon of men, who are kind of past the age of being soldiers, have decided to go and rescue the masterpieces and return them to their respective owners. It's a true story, it's a really great story, and it has all the great components of an amazing movie. It's got a brilliant cast, a good director. We've known George Clooney has directed pretty good movies. World War II is always an amazing time to cover. But for such amazing components, the movie was sort of okay. Maybe it's because you know almost every name that is in this movie. The cast is super famous, but it felt like it was going to be way more than what it really delivered. The premise is set well, and it's set very early on in the movie. You understand exactly what's happening, and they don't dilly-dally too much. But then after everything's said and you know who's who, the movie slows down quite a lot and not much happens. I think it's because they all go to Europe and they have to go their separate ways to different countries and see what's going on and where they're hiding the art. And so you just have to go through every story, which is about 4 or 5 stories, and they develop very slowly, and by the time you go back to the first one you have forgotten what was really happening there, so that takes quite a while. I also never feel like I really get to know all the characters very well. There's not much character development. These are men who really live. These are men who really risked their lives to save incredible masterpieces that would have probably been burned or destroyed if they hadn't done what they did. So why don't we get a bit more of that character development to make the story really interesting? Matt Damon's character is stuck in Paris with Cate Blanchett's character. I don't remember any of their names. I'm very sorry. And he's trying to coax her to tell him where the Nazis have probably hidden all the art, and she doesn't want to because she feels like they're just gonna steal the art just like the Germans have done. So there's that struggle going on, and maybe a sort of possibility of a romance, but not really. Bill Murray's character is stuck with the short character. I don't remember their name. And there's a little bit of a banter going on. They don't really get along, but they have no choice, and in the end they do care about each other, sort of. George Clooney is George Clooney. And then there's a British character with a sort of mistake in his past that doesn't really come up until much later, and his story becomes attached to the story of the Madonna in Brussels. And so there's the search for this particular piece throughout the whole movie, and that's one of the very few and only specific pieces of art that you know they're really looking for. The movie is funny in a lot of places. The story is very interesting. It's set almost at the very end when the Germans are running away and they realize they're losing the war. The message of the story is very clear from the beginning. Art is important. Art is the trace of humanity throughout Earth, and we have to do something to preserve it and not let, you know, a country that wants to take over ruin everything that we have done. And there's always the battle of, is it that important that you want to risk your life over it? There's a real war going on, but do you really need to do this? And that's sort of the opinion that these guys are fighting the entire time. But at the same time, I feel like Clooney keeps beating us over the head with this message. It's very clear and very appealing from the very beginning. He doesn't need to keep saying it out loud to us and to the platoon. There are just constant speeches and voiceovers of Clooney telling the platoon and the audience how important it is what they're doing. And there's a moment where you just feel like, oh my god, we get it. I think Clooney should have let his audience decide how important this mission was and what value it had for them, subjective. He does a great job at showing it throughout the movie. He doesn't need to constantly say it. Because there's a moment where you realize it's so much more than just the art. It was how this man just wanted literally everything from every country. He wanted to own everything. He just stripped the entire continent naked of its values and its history. It surprises you to see that we were so close to not having any of this, of not having enormous national museums of art, and we would have lost centuries of culture and, you know, famous painters and works because this man decided he needed to have it all. But you kind of miss the importance of it sometimes because Clooney keeps telling you and kind of pointing exactly at what you need to be looking at, and it just gets a little bit, I don't know, cheesy, I guess? Also, there's no real sense of urgency in this movie. You don't see anything going too quickly. I mean, the war is about to end, and if the war is about to end and Hitler loses, he decided that he was going to burn everything and destroy everything. So they don't really have a lot of time, and yet everything feels kind of slow-paced. I don't know, I feel like it could have been a movie that had you more on the edge of your seat as opposed to, well, everything will be alright. It just felt more like a cheesy TV movie as opposed to a great, going to see the premiere kind of movie. In the end, I would say that Monuments Men is good to watch on DVD. It's a lot better than they're rating it. I've seen really low ratings. It's a good movie to watch. I think it's a story that everybody should know, but it wasn't as amazing as I expected it to be. I guess I was just expecting it to be way better than it was, and so you just end up feeling like, well, that was cute. That's kind of the word I felt described the entire experience. It was a cute story. It was a cute movie. Which is not something I expect to say about a World War II movie. So that's everything I thought about Monuments Men. Tell me, what did you think about the movie? Also tell me, what is your favorite World War II movie? Leave a comment down below and let me know. So that's everything for this episode of Cine Club. I hope you enjoyed this review as much as I enjoyed talking to you about it. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you on our next movie date. What it really means to be a human being. It touches on that very well, and I think that's what makes this movie interesting. But staying on this subject for over an hour makes this movie a lot more like a political commentary than an action movie.